At the beginning of the story, we see a car traveling along a mountain road. In the car were Henry, a middle-aged man, and Elizabeth, a beautiful young woman who dreamed of building a beautiful world with her husband, away from all the difficulties of her life. Then we see a huge house built in the middle of the mountains. After entering the house, we see two people named Claire and Oliver. Among them, Oliver was blind. Elizabeth's joy knew no bounds seeing such a beautiful house. At night, they ate a delicious meal and spent some loving moments together. The next morning, Henry showed Elizabeth around the entire house, where there were valuable paintings in various places. Then she noticed that all the doors had biometric locks. Elizabeth's eyes then fell on a white door, and she asked Henry what was there. Henry told her never to go into that room by mistake. In response, Elizabeth said that even if she wanted to, she couldn't, because all the doors would open with his fingerprint. Henry replied, saying there was no need to be angry, as it would open with her fingerprint too. The next morning, Henry went out for some work. Elizabeth spent her time swimming in the pool and wearing different kinds of clothes and jewelry. At night, she saw Claire and Oliver leave the house. Later, she couldn't sleep, so she wandered around the house alone, and as soon as she reached that white door, she couldn't stop herself from going inside. She opened the door and saw a scientific lab. As soon as Elizabeth pressed a button there, a glass capsule suddenly appeared in front of her, inside which was a young girl with a tube attached to her mouth. Elizabeth saw that this girl looked exactly like her. She got scared and immediately ran out of there. But in her haste, she bumped into a table, and a piece of glass got stuck in her finger. The next morning, Henry returned and started playing the piano for Elizabeth, but soon he noticed that Elizabeth was lost in her own thoughts. When Henry asked about the injury on her finger, she lied, but Henry already knew she was lying. At night, Elizabeth pretended to be asleep, and as soon as Henry got up to go to that secret room, she quietly followed him. But suddenly, Henry came out of the darkness and started getting angry at Elizabeth. Elizabeth said that she hadn't seen anything wrong, but Henry didn't listen to a word she said. He chased Elizabeth to hit her, and Elizabeth tried to escape, but all the doors were locked. Just then, Henry grabbed her leg and finished her off with a knife. After this, we see Henry, Claire, and Oliver digging a hole and burying Elizabeth's body. Exactly 6 weeks later, Henry married a new clone of Elizabeth and brought her home. The same thing happened again, and Henry forbade her from going to the secret room. Elizabeth agreed, and they both started living happily and peacefully together. On the other hand, Claire was hiding in the dark, watching them. Later, when Elizabeth couldn't sleep, she came outside and saw Claire in the kitchen. A conversation started between them, and Claire was trying to warn Elizabeth about Henry, but just then Henry came there and took her back to the bedroom. The next morning, after Henry left for work, Elizabeth wandered around the house. She called out to Claire and Oliver, but no one was there. Then she went to that secret room. After a while, she too came out screaming. The next morning, when Henry returned, he saw that Elizabeth was quite flustered. He realized that Elizabeth had not listened to him again. Suddenly, he attacked Elizabeth and tried to strangle her, but Elizabeth pushed him away and ran. She grabbed a knife from the kitchen, while Henry came there with a chloroform-soaked cloth. Then he started playing the piano to distract Elizabeth. Slowly, he moved towards her and suddenly pressed the chloroform-soaked cloth over her face. Elizabeth then pretended to faint and suddenly stabbed Henry in the back with the knife. Henry fell to the ground from the impact, and soon Elizabeth also lost consciousness. Later, when she regained consciousness, she saw that Henry was dead. Immediately, Elizabeth cleaned the blood from the floor and hid Henry's body wrapped in a sheet in the elevator. Then she burned all the blood-stained clothes. After that, she called the emergency services, but she didn't know where she was. However, Claire and Oliver were surprised to see Elizabeth alive. Claire understood that since Elizabeth was alive, it meant Henry was dead. Suddenly, she had a heart attack in the kitchen. She immediately called for an ambulance, and the ambulance took her to the hospital. Now Elizabeth was also plotting to escape from the house, but Oliver stopped her and said that he knew Henry was dead. Elizabeth got flustered and said that she hadn't done it intentionally. She had to kill him only to save her own life. In response, Oliver said that he didn't like Henry either, so it was good that he was dead. Then Elizabeth asked him who he was. Oliver then revealed that Henry had created 6 clones of his wife Elizabeth, and he was Elizabeth number 5. Hearing this, Elizabeth was astonished. Oliver told her to take all the money and run away from there. Then, as Elizabeth was packing her things in her room, Oliver came there with Claire's diary and asked Elizabeth to read it. Then, while talking, he closed the outside door and left. Elizabeth couldn't understand anything and repeatedly asked him to open the door, but Oliver didn't listen to a single word she said. Helpless, Elizabeth then began to read Claire's diary. She learns that Claire is a scientist, and Henry had called Claire to work with him. But when she finds out what she has to do, her blood runs cold. Henry tells her that his wife Elizabeth had died of a serious illness while giving birth, Henry was so deeply hurt by this that he extracted Elizabeth's genes and created 6 clones of her. But unfortunately, the cells of that disease kept growing in all the clones as well. Then Henry bought capsules and kept the clones in them. When Claire arrived there, only 4 clones were still alive. Now Claire has been researching those genes for a long time. Meanwhile, Henry tries to fill these clones with music and other memories so that they remember their past. And he also researches to eradicate the disease. Then Henry brings the first clone out, but she had no experience of her real life, and that's why very strange things used to go on in her head. Then, one day, annoyed by all this, she ran away from the house, but the police saw her on the street and brought her back to the house. Then, Henry told the police that Elizabeth was mentally unstable, and the police left her there. Currently, the 5th Elizabeth is reading all this in the diary. Suddenly, Oliver comes with food. As soon as Elizabeth sees him, she jumps on him and demands the code to open the door. Oliver gives her the code, and she goes outside, while Oliver goes to his lab. After some time, when Elizabeth comes to the lab, she sees Oliver working on the 6th Elizabeth. He tells the 5th Elizabeth to cut off the 6th Elizabeth's head. Elizabeth was wondering what to do. Taking this opportunity, Oliver injects her and makes her unconscious. Then Elizabeth dreams while unconscious, where she is shown the lives of all her clones. Later, when she regains consciousness, she sees that she is chained to the bed. Now, frustrated, she starts reading Claire's diary again. She reads that Claire's research was ongoing, but the first clone died within a week. Although Claire had eliminated the disease's genes, she couldn't understand what was happening to them. Oliver comes to Elizabeth's room and asks if Claire wrote anything about her. Elizabeth tells him that Henry and Claire's relationship started after the death of the 3rd clone. Meanwhile, Oliver started liking Elizabeth because he had never seen such a beautiful girl before. Then we learned that Oliver was not blind at the beginning. One night, Oliver saw Henry and Claire kissing. Then Henry blinded Oliver. Saying these things, Oliver leaves. Then Elizabeth reads in the diary that Claire has broken up with Henry because she couldn't compete with Elizabeth's clones. Later, Claire examines the records and learns that the real Elizabeth never gave birth to any children. Her death was mysterious. The next morning, when the current 5th Elizabeth wakes up, Oliver holds scissors to her throat and asks what Claire wrote about him in the diary. Elizabeth says that according to Claire, she is Henry's clone. But this is not true because Henry had shown her a birth certificate. This means Oliver is not Henry's clone. He is not her clone. He is not her clone. What is happening in this movie? Anyway, then Elizabeth asks Oliver if he loves her. Then she attracts Oliver and calls him closer. Unable to stop himself, Oliver comes to Elizabeth. But just then, Elizabeth throws him to the ground and holds the scissors to his throat. She demands the chain key and the door code from Oliver. Just then, the 6th Elizabeth arrives there with a gun in her hand. Oliver tells the new Elizabeth that the 5th Elizabeth is a fake, and they need to finish her off. But the 5th Elizabeth says this is not true. Both of them have been forcibly held captive here, but the 6th Elizabeth was ready to shoot. The 5th Elizabeth immediately puts Oliver in front of her, and as soon as the 6th Elizabeth fires, the bullet hits Oliver, causing his immediate death. But the 5th Elizabeth is also injured in this. Then, seizing the opportunity, she runs away, and the 6th Elizabeth keeps crying for Oliver. Meanwhile, the memories of all the old Elizabeth's lives flash through number 5's mind. Suddenly, a gunshot is heard, and we see the 6th Elizabeth shoot the 5th Elizabeth. In the last moments of her death, number 5 sees her own face coming closer to her. The next morning, the 6th Elizabeth reads Claire's diary. According to it, Henry had transferred all his property to Claire's name so that she could continue her research. Then the truth comes out that the real Elizabeth did not die while giving birth, but was accidentally killed by Henry. After killing her, Henry created her clones. But the truth is that he still enjoyed killing Elizabeth. Henry knew that these clones were not the real Elizabeth, yet he found pleasure in killing them. After reading all this, the 6th Elizabeth sees that Claire has returned. They meet, and Elizabeth leaves everything for Claire because she doesn't want any property for herself. Finally, Elizabeth sets out on her own path to start a new life. So, how did you like this strange story? Be sure to let me know in the comments. See you in the next video. And yes, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.